on this episode of the Sorority Chat podcast.
I really wanted a place that I could advocate for agriculture because I feel like there are so many people who are disconnected from that nowadays, where their food comes from and all that sort of thing. So having a place that could educate, and I would like this to be a place to facilitate that. And I mean, we have a farmer's market during the summer, but I mean, advocacy needs to happen all the time.
Hey y'all, and welcome to Sorority Chat. I'm Liz Alexander, a designer and sorority alum who's obsessed with all things Greek life. My mission? To bring you real conversations, smart insights, and fun stories that help make sorority living even better. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfy, and let's chat. Hey sorority chatters, welcome back. Joining us this week, we have Kamryn Orr, a University of Idaho graduate, an Alpha Gamma Delta Empower program graduate and peer mentor, and a 6th-generation Idaho agriculturist who is now working full-time in her family's business. What I think is especially interesting about Kamryn's story is that while a lot of conversations around post-grad life focus on corporate careers or moving to big cities, she chose a different path. She returned home to help lead and grow a multi-generational family operation that includes farming, cattle, a livestock feed store, and even aggregate mining. So we're going to talk about what it's like to step into a family business at a young age, what it's like to be an advocate for agriculture, the value of college and connection building, and how sorority experiences can shape leadership in unexpected industries. Kamryn, welcome. I'm so excited that you came on.
Hi. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, I enjoyed our time together through the AGD Empower program, and it's been so fun to keep up with you as you finished your college years and you've stepped into the family business. And so I just knew that I wanted you to come on and share your experience with listeners because I think it's a very unique one and a story that should be told.
Yeah, thank you. I really enjoyed getting to go to Empower and especially getting to serve as a peer mentor. It was really interesting to get to participate and then get to do a little bit behind the scenes work and strengthen those connections with sorority sisters from all across the nation. And yes, it was a very good program, and I wish that everybody would get the opportunity to travel and go do that. So
yeah, same. It's a great program to go through as a collegian. And then it's quite an honor for you to be asked to go from being a participant to a peer mentor. And I served as a facilitator. And so folks who are listening that aren't familiar with the program, people get selected to go through the leadership program. And then after they complete it, some of those folks are asked to be peer mentors, which means that they're still in college and they're sort of like assisting alumna facilitators like myself. And they're able to really relate to the participants because they just went through the program. And so I think that was such a cool addition that was added to the program like the second year and beyond.
Yes, yeah. And I actually was one of the first people or first participants for the program. And it's been really cool. Every year there's been at least one gal from my chapter who's been a participant. So it's nice to get to see how they're utilizing it in the chapter and then applying the things that they've learned. And it's really, I love getting to know more people. And I still talk to some of the people that I was a participant with and even some of the gals that I peer mentored. So
yeah, that's cool. That says a lot about your chapter too, that you're always having someone run through that program. I think that speaks volumes about the benefits of your chapter and how you're a standout.
Yes, yeah. We have some really good leadership potential in the chapter and everybody's super involved, which is nice. I didn't really know that there were some chapters that have a problem with getting people to like stay involved and want to do things. And it was, just very interesting getting to see how other chapters operate different than mine. And even though we're all alpha gams, how to each university, there's like a different, what is the word I'm looking for? Like a
culture, maybe kind of rhythm and culture and how they do things.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, that is kind of an unexpected benefit of programs like that is you do get to hear what's happening in other chapters and other regions, and you can learn from each other. And sometimes you're the one sharing experiences that's helping to like prop up and encourage other chapters. And then sometimes you're walking away with nuggets that you're going to be able to help your chapter because you learned from someone else.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that it was a good experience for you. It was a program that I've really enjoyed being a part of too. And I know a lot of organizations are doing some version of that leadership program and they all call them different things.
Yeah. And I really find value in doing leadership programs, even as an adult or an industry professional, getting more practice in how to facilitate conversations between like people you're working with, or I guess peers is a good word for that. It's just a skill that you can never go wrong with exercising,
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I graduated college in 2005, so I've been working for a long time now, and I still see benefits in getting that sort of training and education myself because the workplace is constantly changing. And also the skills you're learning apply to your personal life too, right? You can apply them in those situations, but you think about the different generations of folks that are in a workplace. And, we were talking about how you're a 6th generation in your family. And so I'm sure there's that dynamic. And so the leadership, it never is outdated for you to learn more about leadership.
Yeah. And a lot of those skills, I wouldn't say a lot of them, all of those skills that I've learned, like being an Alpha Gam officer and then going to these leadership programs, have really translated into my professional life. To give you a little structure about how we operate our businesses, my dad he's the big guy, right? And then my mom has been super phenomenal. She didn't go to college. She has done all of the books for the farm since I was a kid, since its inception. I guess the motivation behind doing agriculture economics and doing some of the marketing in school was to take some of that load off of her. It really doesn't sound like a lot, but when we're right in the middle of harvest, there's lots of things going on. There's lots of inventory coming and going and trying to keep track of all of that. And then being an adult, you realize how many bills there are, right? So that is just super crazy getting to know more about the inner workings of our businesses. So I've taken some of that load off of her. Like I help do payroll and I do the invoicing for stuff and trying to keep track of some of the things that are really important, but they've been kind of set to the wayside because there are like more important things happening, right? That need to be kept track of. So my dad and my mom have been running, our farm pretty much exclusively. So now that I'm here, I can take some of that responsibility away from them. We have several employees that work for us. It's just really cool to get to see like the people that I grew up with and being around and knowing them in a professional setting instead of just a personal one too, and getting to see the inner workings of how our family's business works. And yeah.
I would say so. I'm glad that you talked about some of those behind the scenes things that somebody wouldn't realize as part of running a farm or running a business. And it's not the sexy stuff. It's not the fun stuff. And like personally, the accounting, the invoicing, all of that is like my most hated part of my business, but it's necessary, right? You can't run a business if you can't send out the invoices and you're not paying your bills. And it's a bummer, but it's a necessary part of adulting and running that daily business.
You don't realize how much goes into it until you're in it, right? So I started transitioning into doing more of the accounting when I was like a senior in college. And then after I graduated, it was just like I got handed a really big project with the Department of Water Resources. And then it was really cool to have that responsibility. I think doing a little stuff here and there, but then it made me feel like I was a part of the business and wasn't just there part-time like I had been in high school and college and stuff like that. And after graduation, I got to see all of the parts from planting to harvest to the in-between stuff, doing the maintenance on the equipment. And even growing up in the same house as, the family business, you didn't really understand how much work went into it until you were right in the middle and you were there for all of the steps. And that's something I'm really excited for my brother to get to experience when he graduates next weekend. He's going to school for ag systems management, where I did more the accounting side of my education. He's doing the fertilizer and pesticides and crop rotations and irrigation and all that good stuff. So, and he also has a minor in ag business. So we can really work together and make sure that, the checks and balances right when we eventually do farm transition.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Okay. So if somebody's listening and they're not familiar with agriculture, how would you describe, I'm going to say in quotations, a normal day for you? And I understand that running a business, each day can be very different, but sort of in summary, how would you describe an agriculture business to someone who's not familiar?
Yeah. So our primary business historically has been like crop farming. So it's very seasonal. Every day looks super different, which is what I love about my job is, I get the opportunity to do things like this and do advocating for agriculture. And then I get to go sit in the tractor and do planting and stuff like groundwork. And then I get to, do stuff with the cows. And then we just opened this feed store, and then I get to do community networking through there. But right now in this season, we just started harvesting our first crop of hay. So it's like grass, I guess, not grass, but it's animal feed. So
yep.
When you cut it, it grows back. So we usually get 3 or 4 cuttings every year. This year's a little different because we are in a drought. We practically got no snow in southern Idaho this year.
Right. Yeah.
But we just started harvesting our first crop of hay. And behind that, we are also still in the middle of planting corn. So getting towards the tail end of that. And then we chop most of it for a dairy that's located here in Mountain Home. So what that is, if people are familiar with silage, it's the stuff in big piles in a dairy that's how they store their feed for the cows. So this is haylage is, I guess, the technical term for it. It's chopped hay. And then they'll put it in a pile and then it'll ferment and do all that good stuff until they feed it next year. So that's where most of the stuff on the big farm goes. And then when my brother JR and I were in high school, we started a 2-string bale business. So just like the little square bales that you can see at the feed store. So we started that when we were in high school, and it's kind of just grown exponentially as we've gotten older. We have a pretty loyal clientele, and I love getting to know more about them all the time. So we'll put a portion of our acres into little bales for horse people and goat people and all that good stuff.
That is quite a variety then, and something different all the time.
Yeah. It's really, I'm trying to find the word for it. I feel very fortunate that I get to do what I do. I have never experienced oh man, I'm kind of bored today. What am I going to do? So,
yeah. I've never met a farmer that said they're bored.
Yeah. Yep. And there's something going on all the time. And I love being outside, and I love my cows, and getting to be a part of something that's bigger than myself, I feel is really important.
Yeah, having that sense of purpose, I agree. You definitely want to be connected to something bigger than you. Was it always in your plan to come back and work in the family business? Like, did you always know that was the case, or was there a turning point somewhere along the way?
So I briefly, like in junior high or my freshman, sophomore year of high school, I wanted to be a large animal veterinarian. So cows and horses and all that good stuff. My grandfather has had cattle since before my mom was born. So he just turned 80 this year. He is one of my favorite people, and he really sparked that love for livestock in me, getting to help the sick animals. And you can ask my mom or any of my family that I'm always the one you see something on the side of the road that looks like it needs help, and I'm the one that's going to pick it up, and try to nurse it back to health. After thinking about it, I get to do that in my job anyway. I mean, I might not have the title or the schooling to be a veterinarian, but I get to do that and more in my day, So we have cattle, so if they're sick, I'm the one that people call for advice if they need help, and we have horses, and same thing goes with them. I get to be around them, and that is my fix, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It makes perfect sense. And it's really full circle, even though if along the way you thought you might be doing something different, it's all still showing up now from based on what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's cool. So, I mean, historically, farming and the industries that you're working in are mostly male dominated. So, how has it been being a young woman coming into that space?
There are some challenges. A lot of the farmers are of the older generation. So, they don't mean anything by it like hurtful, but they just don't want the women to have to work as hard, if that makes sense. So it's been a learning curve, especially for the older gentlemen in my community that I've grown up with. I'm very independent, and I like to learn how to do things myself, and I am a great problem solver. So if something's broken or whatever, I'd like to figure out how to fix it. So
sure.
Instead of calling them for them to come out and do it for me, I want them to explain it to me so I can do it myself. So it's been a learning curve for people in my community and myself about how to not be offended when something like that happens, because they don't mean anything by it. They're just being nice, Yeah, there are, some barriers. I would say people underestimate us a lot, which can be a good thing and a bad thing, right? It's one of my favorite things is if somebody tells me that I can't do it, I like it when I can prove to them that I can. Yes. And 9 times out of 10 that it is the case, and I'm not afraid to ask for help, and I'm not embarrassed about it. And I would rather somebody teach me how to do it than me try to figure it out myself and then makes it worse, and then I'm embarrassed, right? So.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's good that you know that, right? A lot of young people are afraid to ask questions, but if you're coming at it from a place of curiosity and please teach me so that I'm educated, like kudos to you there. And I can relate fully to what you're saying. As a woman in, when we're dealing with construction projects, I'm usually the only woman involved. And so it's male dominated. And what you're saying about the older generation, it is so fascinating. And I think it goes back to our conversation at the beginning about different generations and leadership styles and understanding how to do that. There's like a sense of chivalry sometimes in the older generation. And so just like you said, they may not want the woman to have to pick that up or to work hard, or, there's a certain way of being treated, but then you do have a newer generation of women who wants to do it and be independent and needs to learn. And so it's trying to figure out how to finesse all of that.
Yeah. And it does take, well, like you said, it does kind of take some finesse, right? Because, something might happen and you're like, well, that kind of really hurt my feelings, and to kind of take a step back and analyze the situation and be like, well, should I have hurt feelings, or is it just like a misunderstanding?
Yeah, you're right. That's a good approach too, rather than just instantly being offended or popping off and flying off the handle. Take that step back and assess it and figure out, like, is this a big deal or do I need to just move on?
Yeah, I've had to learn to have tough skin because, farmers and ranchers, they have the MO of being hot, I guess, or like easily angered or frustrated easily. And a lot of the time, things that they say or some of their actions, it's not directed towards you, it's towards the situation. So having to take a step from that, and we've had lots of conversations about this, within our family unit, that when we're at work, it's not you're my dad or my mom or my brother. We are co-workers, and what happens needs to stay at work, and it does not translate into our family dynamic. So,
and that's hard. So how do you all manage that? Because you are still the same people, whether you're at work or you're at home. And so those boundaries, I think, are very important to set.
We have something we call family meetings. They've translated more into company meetings. So our farm structure is really, I mean, it's really family based. So my dad is the big guy, and then his brother, my Uncle Justin, he works with us, and then my mom, and then me and my brother, and my fiance Eric, and then actually one of my cousins on my mom's side. So we have lots of people, within our immediate family that we all work together. And then going down from there, a lot of our employees, we utilize the H-2A program, which has been a godsend for our farm. And a lot of those guys, they are family as well.
What is that?
H-2A.
Uh-huh.
Forgive me if I'm translating it wrong. I believe it stands for Hispanic to America.
Oh, nice. Okay.
We hire seasonal employees from Mexico to come up, and they work for us from like the middle of March to the middle of November. And a lot of them, they are all from the same town, so they are all family too. So it's just interesting that I don't know if our dynamic is unique, but I would find it hard to believe that there's very many farms that get to operate the way we do. To answer your previous question about how we deal with emotions in the workplace and not translating them into our family life, we have family meetings, as I mentioned, and a lot of that is I carry this little notebook that I actually got from Empower.
Oh, nice. Nice connection.
Yeah, if you can see, I have all kinds of notes in here, and I have 4 or 5 of them more that are completely full. And so if we have something that we need to talk about, all of us carries one of these around with us and we write it down. So once a month or so, we have a sit down meeting, usually after like a family dinner or whatever. And we go through the things that we need to talk about. So say we need to make a change on the farm, like I think that we could do this more efficiently, or this wasn't working. How about we try it this way? Or this situation happened and I feel like we could have responded to it differently, that stuff. So instead of it like getting wrestled out or fought out in the moment, a lot of the problems we've seen can be alleviated if you just take it and you write it down, right? So people do journaling. I feel like it would be the same. You just write down, this is what happened on this day, whatever. And then, 2 weeks later, so many other things have happened by then. And then it's like, well, I was upset for no reason, right? And it was said in the heat of the moment or done in the heat of the moment. That, I mean, by no means are we perfect. There are some days that I'm like, man, I just really don't want to look at him right now. Like, he just really is making me mad, and my brother and I, we fought like cats and dogs when we were little. And it's really funny now that, after I went away to college for 2 years before he came up to Moscow with me, it was like he would text me, hey, mom and dad went and did this, and what are you doing right now? Or he would call me out of the blue, and that never happened, right? So we have a really good relationship now. And, sometimes we say things to each other, and then he'll call me like half an hour later and be like, you'll never believe I just saw this funny thing that happened, So we're very forgive and forget kind of people, I would say.
So I love the notebook comment and story that you told. You're the second time that this concept has come up for me in a few days. I saw online the other day, it was a story about a couple having a successful relationship, and the reason was they each kept a notebook, and when they were frustrated, they would, jot down whatever it was. And then in 3 days, if they looked at it and it was still a problem, they would talk about it. Or to your point, if it was like not a big deal, then it lived in the notebook and they went on. So I think there's something to that.
Yeah. And I feel like you should just do it anyway. A lot of people can be, quick to anger, quick to have hurt feelings. And a lot of the time, in my experience, things have been said in the heat of the moment. I lived in the chapter facility at U of I, and, you live in a house with 60 people, and not everybody's going to get along every single day. So, and we're girls, things get said and happen when we're upset, right? So I really did not do the journaling practice until I graduated, but I feel like that would have alleviated a lot of heartache, so, and it's taught me a lot of things about, I particularly can be a little sensitive to situations sometimes. So being able to take a step back and being, well, should I really have hurt feelings about that? Or was it really that big of a deal to make a whole entire event about it, So, and I think that's a lot of things, a lot of people can utilize that in their life, that a lot of stuff is just communication issue, right? So how things are said, or, maybe somebody was talking to you and they said just like one sentence, you're like, oh man, well, are they mad at me or did I do something? But like taking a step back and being like, well, maybe it's just not that big of a deal, and a lot of the times it's not what we think it is. So
you are exactly right. There's so much going on with the other person that we don't know, and we're just taking it and internalizing it. And that communication goes a really long way. And sadly, we don't know that when we're like 18 to 21. We're still trying to figure that out. And so it's kind of with age and experience that we learn those things.
Yeah. And I can really see a difference between, especially like the people who left. I have a unique perspective, I guess, from being away from my hometown for a little while and then getting the opportunity to come back and reconnect with people who are still here. And I can see some of that, like, I don't know if the correct word for it is like emotional maturity. That seems like a little harsh to me, but somewhere along those lines.
Mm-hmm. Emotional intelligence too.
Yes. And I mean, it's of no fault of their own, right? You don't know what you don't get to experience. And I can see a difference between those of us who left home for a little while and got to meet people from different areas and learn how to, navigate different personalities and all that sort of thing. And then the people who stayed in my hometown, and they didn't get to experience anything other than the bubble that they grew up in, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good perspective and point of view to understand kind of where everyone's coming from.
I think it just takes a little bit of practice to get to learn how to do, and not opportunities like that don't always come up outside of like leaving for a while and meeting new people. So
yep, you're right. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit. Talk about this livestock feed store that y'all have just recently opened, and like what led to that and what it's like being a part of building something new.
It was actually my Empower project, which is really interesting. We got to pick a project in our professional life, or like through AlphaGam or something of that nature, something that we just wanted to like be in charge of moving the plan along. So I picked, it's kind of developed since then. I really wanted a place that I could advocate for agriculture, because I feel like there are so many people who are disconnected from that nowadays. And, growing up, my town is relatively small. Everybody in here was either a farmer or a cattle person or something of that nature, had horses, did 4-H or FFA. We have kind of moved away from that. Boise is the capital of Idaho, and they have grown exponentially in the last 10 years. Especially, I noticed a difference being in Moscow, which is 6.5 hours away in North Idaho, where Mountain Home is in Southern Idaho. And coming back from Moscow, I mean, I would look around and I'm like, man, we have a Dutch Bros in Mountain Home now. Like, this is crazy. We are big city living it here, to some, I mean, people are disconnected from, where their food comes from and all that sort of thing. So having a place that could educate people without like being embarrassed, I guess. I feel like that happens a lot, is that farmers and ranchers historically have been deemed as unapproachable, like they're just work, and I need to get this done and I don't have time to talk to you about what's going on. And that's been also a learning curve for the older generation, is that sometimes you need to slow down and think about what you say before it comes out of your mouth.
Yep, that's a good lesson.
We opened this place as that is like the heart of it. So eventually I would like this space to be like where people can come in and they can get locally grown produce, or like the hobby farmers, I guess they could sell their goat cheese or their goat milk or something like that, where people can support local businesses. And I would like this to be a place to facilitate that. And I mean, we have a farmer's market during the summer, but a lot of the time, agriculture is not just like seasonal, right? When you think about the growing season, it is. But I mean, advocacy needs to happen all the time. So this is just like the first step in that direction. So everything in my feed store was grown on our farm. So we have feed for chickens, pigs, horses, cattle. I even had a hunter come in and he picked up some grain to feed his quail that he has as pets and all kinds of stuff. And it's just really cool to get to meet more people from my community that otherwise I would not have had a connection with.
Yeah, I would say so. And you're so personable. And so what a cool way to have kind of that centralized hub and heart. So whether it's, education events or like you said, sort of indoor farmers markets, there's a lot that could happen there and stem from just that one building.
Yeah. And I really hope that we can, get it done, right? I feel like there are a lot of people who try to do something like this and then, God gives us challenges. And when things start to get difficult or, you have a bad setback, usually that is one of the last humps before it becoming successful. So the people who are tenacious and, can stomach it, or man, that really sucked, but I guess we'll just start over or try again, and usually those are the people who make it, who can stick it out.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. It gets darkest before the dawn, or, it's hardest before it smooths out for you. So yeah, that's a really good point. And a word of encouragement, I think, if somebody is dealing with some hardships right now, just to keep going and power through, because you're going to get over that hump and it's going to get so much better.
I'm sure everybody can relate, but we as agriculturists are really susceptible to, everything, the weather, world markets, what's happening overseas, so a lot of it, I feel like some people really have a romantic idea of what it means to be in agriculture, right? You're like, oh, well, you only work 9 months out of the year and then you don't have to do anything in the winter, or you get to just show up whenever you want. Well, all of those things could be true, but what a lot of people don't see is, getting up at 4:00 in the morning and not getting home until midnight because we have beets to harvest and it's going to freeze the next day. Or just recently, we just got done with calving season and, you have to go out and do night checks on the heifers, on the new mamas every hour or so, because what happens if something goes wrong, they can't tell you, right? So, and then in the winter time, sure, we're not harvesting or planting or growing things, but we have so much stuff going on through the summer, spring, and fall that the things that get broken on the machinery or on the farms and stuff kind of get put to the wayside until we have a minute to get caught up and then take care of those things. So from like the middle of November to, I guess, like the first part of February is all the time we have to fix our equipment, make sure that, the cows are fed, all of that good stuff before we just, you start it all over again. But
yeah, it's definitely not a 9 to 5. And I'm glad that you share those kinds of things, because when someone's not in the industry, they may have misconceptions. And so I think it starts by educating and just talking about it so people can understand more. And then I think we find a lot more common threads between industries because we're talking to each other about the work.
Yes. And that's the overarching goal behind like the feed store, like we were talking about, is to do, more stuff like this, get to do, maybe one day I'll start my own podcast, but
yes, teach everyone about agriculture.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think, sometimes stuff that feels like common sense to me, I'm like, oh, the majority of the population does not have any clue about what goes on. So sometimes, I have to, I'll be talking about something just like what happened earlier, the H2A program, that feels like a concept that lots of people know about. And I'm like, oh, wait, I need to take a step back here and explain the steps leading up to what I'm trying to get at, I guess.
Yeah, you're right. Well, Kamryn, you're obviously a great advocate for agriculture, and I've really enjoyed having you come on and talk about the work that you're doing and how your sorority experience shows up in that work. If people listening want to connect with you or follow along with the farm, how can they do that?
That's on my goal sheet this year for my New Year's resolutions, I guess. So we have a farm Facebook page, and I have one for the feed store and the gravel company. So my goal this year is to utilize my marketing minor and do more, I guess, posting on social media about that. But yeah, we have the Jeco Futures LLC, or Jeco Farms is, I guess, our family business. And then Von Terra Feeds is the feed store. And then the Rolling Stone Aggregates is our gravel company. So
nice. We'll put all of that in the show notes so that people can follow along and connect with you through socials. But thank you for coming on and talking with us today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed getting to explain a little bit more about what we got going on.
Welcome to Liz's House Hot Takes. This is where I take the lessons I've learned over the last 16 years of designing Greek houses and offer you my pro tips. Here's today's house hot take. Closed storage is greater than open shelving when in high traffic spaces. What I mean by that is open shelves look cute on Pinterest, but in a 100-woman house, they collect clutter. So you want to use cabinets for the messy stuff, places where you can close doors. You style shelves sparingly. For the messy daily supplies, keep them in closets or in console cabinets where you can shut the door and not see the mess. Preferably, though, you organize them well behind those doors so they're easy to find and people know where to put them back after each use. Make time each semester to organize and clean up your supplies as well. This will help keep you on track and not leave a huge mess for future members and execs to clean up. Thanks for listening to another House Hot Take. For more inspiration, check out the PDR Interiors Instagram or TikTok. I'm Liz Alexander, and this is the Sorority Chat podcast. Catch you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're listening on a podcast platform, make sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. And if you got something out of today's conversation, we'd love for you to leave us a 5-star review. It helps us reach more listeners just like you. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to check out this video right here or this one over here. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps us out. I'm Liz Alexander, and this is the Sorority Chat podcast. Catch you next time. This podcast is produced by Collier Landry for Don't Touch My Radio. Copyright Liz Alexander.